Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. If you're new, I'm Becca and this is my true crime corner. Over here I like to do unsolved, solved, and missing persons cases. So if that's something you're interested in, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn your bell notifications on so you don't miss my weekly videos. Sorry guys that there wasn't a video last week, but I got some new information and I wanted to be sure that I had all of the facts for this case before I sat down and talked to you guys about it. The case we're going to cover today is the Heidi Broussard case. I wanted to cover this case for many reasons, and we will get into all of them throughout this video. But Heidi was a 33-year-old woman living in Austin, Texas. She is a mother to three, and they are Silas, who is 6 years old, Margot, who is 2 weeks old, and she also was a mother to a 12-year-old stepdaughter. Heidi had been with her boyfriend Shane for the past 10 years, and he is the father of both of her children and the father to obviously her stepdaughter. They had met a year prior from getting together, working at a casino in Louisiana together. They were both involved in other relationships at the time, so they just became really good friends. Heidi was always described to be an amazing stepmother. She always treated her stepdaughter as her own. They lived in Louisiana, and then 5 years after being together, they decided to move to Austin, Texas, where unfortunately Shane's father had grown ill with cancer and he wanted to be closer to his father. And of course, Heidi understood that. So they packed up and moved to Austin, Texas to be closer to his dad. All of Shane's family is in Austin as well. So it was a tight community of family, even just going from Louisiana to Texas. Heidi was the type of mother where she never left Silas's side. She was always there for everything, always present for everything, and made sure that he was her first and utmost front priority. And Heidi would never leave her son. She was so ecstatic when she found out she was having a girl. She thought that she was always destined to have boys. So when she found out she was having a girl, she was super shocked and surprised. Some of the words used to describe Heidi and the type of person she was is fascinating, wonderful, bubbly, supportive, giver, smart, open-minded, amazing mother, and all around everyone's best friend. Shane described Heidi to be a very open-minded person who could debate topics. She was a history major, and he said that she would debate topics, but she was never pushy and she was never undermining. She was always just open-minded and always willing to listen to other people's side of things. She was just a very giving person, a very selfless mother, and a very selfless friend. She also had no enemies. Heidi was a new mom to her second baby, Margot, who was 2 weeks old. And on December 12th, 2019, it was Shane's first day back to work, and Heidi was kind of on her own to take care of things. Shane wakes up first thing in the morning and he typically got ready for work and took care of what he could before having to wake Heidi up. At around 6:40 a.m., he wakes up Heidi to start getting ready to take Silas to school, and Shane is off to work. Heidi, baby, and Silas pack up and go to drop Silas off at school. She also, after dropping Silas off, heads into the book fair and picks up 3 books that she buys for him that she knows he's just going to be so happy about. She returns home at around 7:30 a.m. and at 8 a.m. she talks to Shane and tells him about the books she bought at the book fair for Silas, and she can't wait to give them to him and how excited he's gonna be. After that, Shane doesn't hear from Heidi for the rest of the afternoon. He was only working a half day since it was his first day back to work after Margot's birth, and he was heading home around 1 p.m. and he tried calling Heidi a few times and she didn't answer her phone. He didn't think much of it, but he arrived home and he saw her car sitting in the parking lot of the apartment complex they live in and didn't think much of it. So he stayed in the car for a little while and finished listening to his podcast. At around 1:40, he went into the apartment and he did notice when he went in that Margot's car seat was in there, the diaper bag was in there, and that Heidi was not in the apartment. His first assumption was that she was probably over at a neighbor friend's house because all of the stuff was there, her car was there, so obviously she didn't leave to go anywhere. But he just assumed that she was probably at a neighbor's house. At this point, he tries to call her phone and Heidi's phone is off. He does notice that his dog is on the balcony, which is a little off and seems a little strange, but he doesn't overthink it too much at the time. He did notice too that her keys and cell phone are gone, even though her phone is off and she hasn't been answering it. By 5:30 p.m., Silas needs to be picked up from school. He has noticed at this point that she has not picked him up. He goes to pick him up, and it's unlike Heidi not to have a plan. She is always there to pick him up, and if she can't be, she makes sure she makes arrangements for somebody else to pick him up, which she did not do this day. At this point, Shane is beginning to get very alarmed. Shane is alarmed enough by now to warrant calling the police and double checking with all of her friends and family as well. Once Shane starts notifying all of Heidi's friends that Heidi and baby Margot are missing, they show up at the apartment to try and help Shane in any way they can. Shane stayed up that entire night, calling and texting Heidi, and of course couldn't sleep at all. The day after Heidi and Margot went missing, the media got involved. Soon after, Texas EquiSearch also got involved in helping search for Heidi and Margot. Founder of Texas EquiSearch, Tim Miller, started speaking with all of Heidi's family and friends, and one of the people that he spoke to was Heidi's best friend, Megan Faramusca. Megan is one of Heidi's longest standing best friends. They have been best friends since they were 11 years old, where they met at a church camp. Megan also lives in Texas. She lives in the Houston area, which is a couple hours away, but not too far from Austin. Megan was also pregnant at the same time as Heidi. She was only a couple weeks behind her, but had just had her baby. She was actually present when Margot was born on November 26th. She was in the room holding Heidi's hand and was there to witness the entire birth. And then the day after the birth, she actually went home to Houston. Megan then went on to have her baby on December 9th, 2019. Megan and Heidi were so close that they would FaceTime on a regular basis. They always said, "I love you" to each other when they got off the phone. When Heidi and Margot went missing, Shane would talk to Megan frequently, and they would sit on the phone and cry together and just wonder how this could happen and wonder where her and the baby are and if they were safe. Although when Tim Miller talked to Megan, things were different. She suspected Shane as possibly having been a part of the disappearance of Heidi and Margot. She accused him of having a bad relationship with Heidi and them being on and off, and just made bold accusations to point fingers in his direction. As I had mentioned before, the day after Heidi went missing, the media got heavily involved. Shane wanted to be a part of every interview he possibly could because he knew getting the word out would be more beneficial in finding his girlfriend and baby alive. We all know, if you're a true crime junkie, you know the first couple of days, if not the first, day, it's imperative to find them. Otherwise, you might not find them alive. We all know that. So he wanted to get in front of a camera, no matter how uncomfortable it made him feel, and get the word out so that people knew to look for them and knew what to look for, who to look for, get their pictures out there and just get them all over the media so that people were looking for them. Unfortunately, with doing so, Shane was heavily scrutinized through the media. The comment sections flooded with accusations of how he must be involved, how he could be involved, how he was like Chris Watts. A lot of people were comparing him, how he was standing, how he was moving to Chris Watts, and how Chris Watts was interviewed and how Chris Watts was swaying, and everybody was just scrutinizing him and boldly pointing the finger at him through his interviews. On top of it, one of Heidi's good friends went on a podcast and discussed how she thought that he was somehow involved in the disappearance. She once again boldly pointed her finger at him and blamed him for them missing. She also discussed how rocky their relationship was. Shane was interviewed by the police for 4 to 5 hours a day, every day that they were missing. He took multiple lie detector tests and knew he had to do this to make sure that he was not a suspect so that they were looking at other people. He knew he wasn't involved. He knew that he had nothing to do with it. And he knew by being cooperative with them that they would start looking at other people. He knew if he lawyered up and didn't cooperate, that they would boldly look at him, which would deter them from finding them, which would deter them from finding the true person who committed this crime. So he did everything the police asked him to do. He did lie detector test. He did hours of interrogations, and he was as open as he possibly could be with them to help find his girlfriend and his baby. Although the last time that he went into the police station to talk to them, all they wanted to ask about was Heidi's best friend, Megan. One of Shane and Heidi's neighbors had a camera that showed the apartment complex parking lot. The cops observed that camera and saw a car that looked a lot like Megan's coming in the day that Heidi and Margot went missing at 9 a.m. On December 11th or 12th, there was another neighbor who witnessed a woman with a small baby in her arms walking towards a parked car where another woman got out to greet them. At this point, the cops started looking at Megan a bit more suspiciously and started probing her with questions that she just couldn't answer. When the cops started asking Megan about her baby, she couldn't really fully answer the questions for that either. Like where she had her baby at. She couldn't remember where she had her baby. She said it was a birthing center, but she couldn't remember the name of it. Something that Shane had remembered was after Heidi had the baby, the day after, Megan had said that she was leaving the key to their apartment on their counter, but that key was never found. He couldn't find where it was. Heidi couldn't find where it was. They both kind of brushed it off, but it was never actually found. When cops became very suspicious of Megan, they decided to find her boyfriend and try and interview him. They surveilled her boyfriend for a while and waited until he was alone and by himself. When talking to her boyfriend, come to find out, he's actually her ex-boyfriend, and they had broken up the previous March. Because they weren't actually together and they were broken up, he had never actually seen her naked while she was pregnant. He did say that he saw her belly grow, but that he had never actually seen her fully pregnant. Megan told her boyfriend on December 12th that she was going to the beach. But on December 13th, when he came home, she said to him, "Don't be mad, don't be mad." And that she had had the baby at a birthing center one day while she was gone. When police proceeded to show him a photo of baby Margot, he then said, "That looks like the baby at my house." Packed with this information, the police started looking at Megan much more heavily. The neighbor who saw the woman carrying the infant walking to a parked car, greeted by another woman, was shown a photo lineup and was 60 to 70% sure that the woman that greeted the woman with the baby was Megan. Surveillance was done on Megan's home, and it seemed like her car was parked in an awkward situation where she was trying to hide it. On December 19th, 2019, they had a search warrant to search Megan's home. They went to her home and found a strong smell of decomposition coming from her car. They opened the trunk and unfortunately found Heidi in there, gone. She had died from strangulation. Fortunately though, they did find baby Margot inside the home, safe and alive. During the search, some of the things that they found that made them believe even more than what was already there, that she was responsible for this and was planning this. She had a ton of suspicious internet searches on her computer, some of which were reasons for an Amber Alert. Amber Alerts issued in Austin, Texas. From December 11th to the 18th, she searched Heidi's name 162 times. On December 14th, she searched bodies found in Austin, Texas. On top of all of that, T-Mobile came back and said that showing from their data, Megan was in Heidi's area the day she went missing. At 2 a.m., Shane got a knock on his door from the police officers that same day that they found Heidi and baby Margot. They notified him that baby Margot was safe and with Child Protective Services until they could formally do a DNA test to prove that it was his baby. And unfortunately, Heidi was no longer with us. Thankfully, it was only a few days and he was reunited with his daughter. Shane had said that emotions were so strong and so overwhelming that he couldn't even hold her, and he just fell to his knees and broke down. Child Protective Services told him, given the situation, she was actually taken care of very well. She was fed, she was healthy, there was absolutely nothing wrong with her. No one ever suspected Megan. Shane never suspected her, Heidi's family, friends, everybody was in complete shock and disbelief that she was the culprit in this. Tim Miller from Texas EquiSearch also never suspected her. If anything, she made him start second-guessing Shane. Some of the things that are coming to light now, even though this case is still open because she has not gone to court, she is innocent until proven guilty. And there are a lot of things that we are not going to know until they go to court, until they try her. But what we do know now, besides the things that I've already told you, it is believed that Megan is talking. It's also believed that she had an accomplice that was a minor. As new information comes out on this case, I will definitely be sure to let you guys know everything that I find out. But as of right now, that is all that they're releasing. They're not releasing who, what, when, where, why. They're not releasing anything that Megan might be saying. So unfortunately, that is all the information that I have for you today. With that being said though, I did want to address some things that weighed super heavy on me when I was watching this case unravel, and when I was watching the way that the media was portraying it and the way that people were commenting, because it just weighed super heavy on my heart. So I just want to get it off my chest and tell you guys exactly how I feel about it. Shane was absolutely persecuted through the media. His actions were scrutinized to the max. In a situation, I can almost guarantee those people scrutinizing it have never been through, have never felt, and have no idea what it's like to go through. Judging somebody by what you think they should be doing or how they should be acting during such a grief-stricken time, no. Even if you were to have gone through something like that and dealt with it a little bit differently, everybody grieves differently. There is no way to tell how one person should grieve compared to the other person. And at the same time, he stood in front of a camera, unbelievably uncomfortable, out of his realm. And on top of the fact that that already was an uncomfortable situation for him, he was also in fear of his child's life, of his girlfriend of 10 years life, his other child's mother. I mean, he was in fear for his girlfriend and his baby. You put him in two situations that are already insanely uncomfortable. How do you think he's gonna act? You don't think he's gonna be off a little bit? I saw in those interviews a man who was super anxious and uncomfortable, but putting his best foot forward to do everything he could to find his family. Also, trying to be very respectful to reporters who were very disrespectful to him. If you watch some of the whole videos through, instead of just watching just the points where they're asking him questions, there's points and times where you can hear them telling him, look up, hold your hand this way, do this way, stand up, sit down, look at the camera, look at the light, do this, do that. This isn't a movie. This is his life. This is what he's going through in the moment, in the present. If it were me, I wouldn't have had nice words to say to them. I probably would have looked worse than he did because I would have gone off on them when they were treating him that way. In all honesty, reporters should be more respectful for somebody who is grieving and going through that moment in time. Don't tell them to play a role that you see fit for your vision in this interview. Let him sit there, let him do what he needs to do, and just take what you can get. Don't demand. And that's what made him look bad, because they were portraying him in a certain light. Tell me, in that type of situation, when your newborn baby is missing and your significant other, and you have people with lights and cameras on you and shouting things at you to do certain things and stand certain ways, How are you gonna react? With all that being said, Shane now has 2 children to raise solely 100% on his own. His oldest child thankfully still has a mother, but his 2 younger ones do not. They're all grieving through this process, all 3 children, himself, her family, friends, everybody's helping out obviously in any way that they can, but he does have to go back to work eventually. He does have to pick up the pieces and move on and live his life. But he had a significant other who was a caretaker. She took care of the kids. She was primarily home with them. She did the brunt of that job. She was the caretaker. That is a position that he no longer has. Obviously, she meant way more to him than that. But unfortunately, that's one less person he has now. One more bill to add to the pile of things. So if you find it in your heart that you want to help him in this time of need, in this transition, he has a GoFundMe that I will have linked in the description box down below. He also has an Amazon wish list for baby items for the baby, because obviously now he's taking care of a newborn solely by himself as well. So feel free to go and donate or purchase something off the wish list if you feel in your heart that you want to help him in some way through this horrendous time in his life. I also wanted to just add into here too, having a best friend do something like that to you is completely mind-blowing. I know for sure that when she went down to meet her that day, or however things panned out, if she came to the apartment, whatever it was, I mean, at some point, Megan had to have called her and said, I'm coming, come outside, I'm coming up, whatever. I'm sure in a million years, she never, ever thought that her best friend would do this to her. I'm sure her main thought was, oh my goodness, I get to meet my best friend's baby. I can't wait. Our daughters are gonna grow up together. They're gonna be best friends, just like us. This is gonna be amazing. We get to raise our girls together. From every person who knew Heidi, she was giving and thoughtful and loving, and the people that she held close to her, she loved hard. Megan was one of those people. So I'm sure that day, her feelings inside were nothing but good, genuine, wholesome feelings that you would feel for your best friend. I know my best friend, my childhood best friend, I would never, ever in a million years assume that she would do something like that to me. And I honestly believe she wouldn't. But that's the scary thing. That's the scary thing about this world. That's the scary thing about cases like this. She could have never prevented this from happening. Heidi did nothing wrong. She could have never prevented this from happening because she trusted somebody she knew for over 20 years. Somebody she has held close to her for almost her whole life. Somebody she said, I love you to every time she got off the phone with her. Never in a million years could she have protected herself from this because the trust she had for that woman who completely broke that trust, she would have never thought. She would have never thought. So as much as you would sit back and think, how could we have prevented this from happening? I really don't think that we could have. The only way that this could have not happened is if Megan was a good human being and didn't do it. I just can't believe that a best friend would do this to a best friend. I mean, no fighting, no argument, nothing, just over a baby. And to think she wouldn't get caught. And look at you now. Was it worth it? All right, guys, that is it for today's video. I am going to update you guys on this case as new information comes out and as the trial is going. If there is a trial, anything on this case, I will update you guys on it. I will also work on doing update videos for all the cases that I'm going to do in the future. As updates come out for those cases, I will also do updates for those as well. All right, guys, thank you for checking in here. And like I said, if you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If there's any cases that you would like me to cover, leave me a comment down below and I would love to see what you guys come up with and what cases you guys would like to see. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week. Bye.